Alright, welcome back to Jack Tells a Story. This time, this one is entitled Nana's Prank. See, my grandmother, who we called Nana, she was the kindest person you'd ever want to meet. There's a good reason she earned the nickname St. Linda. It was a family joke, but it was not, it was a family joke, but we could believe it. But despite that, she had a mischievous side as well. And she definitely enjoyed the thrill of a good practical joke. And this is such a time. This is about 2010, 2011. It would make me about 5 or 6 years old. And Nana and I, my cousin Evan, and my grandfather were up at the family farm. This is before the house was renovated. This is before it was like you've seen in the other videos. This is when it was, this is when we're just starting to talk about doing it. And one of Nana's cousins came up to visit, and they're talking in the kitchen or something, and we're sitting in the living room petting the dog, because the dog was in the living room. We were using the dog as an excuse to eavesdrop and hear what they were saying. Nana said something about remodeling the house. And we said, Evan and I were like, well, we might as well help, because that's going to be one heck of a project. We decided to help by pulling up all the linoleum tiles that stretched through literally every room in the house. So we start upstairs. About 2 hours go by. We've got maybe about half of them pulled up. Some of them came up really easily. Some of them were still stuck on. Evan had the idea that if you jumped on them, it would break up the glue, which he now says was stupid, but it actually, most of the time, actually worked. So, yeah. So he and I get about half of a room done. Nana comes upstairs. She sees the mess, and she's like, what do you think you're doing? She's trying to sound angry at this point, but clearly stifling a laugh. And I said, well, we heard you say something about restoring the house, and we thought we should help. And she, she was like, all right, and she told us that she was going to go into town and pick up lunch, and that Granddad would be out on the tractor if we needed him. Okay. She goes back downstairs and walks out of the house. What I didn't realize is, she had a surprise lined up for us. Instead of going to the car, she went to the garage and grabbed a broom. Then, she snuck back into the house, up the stairs, right past the open door into the room where we were, and up into the attic. She walked over to above where that room is, which is the room that had the CEC Newport in it, which you can see if you've watched the ceiling fans in the farmhouse video. She walks over there, and she starts banging the broomstick on the floor. So all we hear is, and I think at first we didn't hear it, but then the glass on the Newport must have been loose. It came off, hit the floor, and exploded into a billion tiny pieces. There are probably still pieces of glass in there to this day. So we turned off whatever music we'd been playing, and we hear above us. I don't know what we thought. Probably a ghost. I mean, 150-year-old house. It certainly could be. What I do remember is running down the stairs, screaming. I'm sure Nana's laughing herself into fits at this point, by the way. And, I think that if we had looked around, we'd have seen that her keys were still on the hook. We'd have seen that her purse was still on the table. We'd have figured out she wasn't in the bathroom or her bedroom or the kitchen. We'd have figured out she wasn't in the car and the car wasn't running. We probably would have figured it out. But no. We ran out to the garage back before it was organized. And we decided, you know what, we're going to hide behind this pile of junk so that we can see everyone who's coming in the door, but they can't necessarily see us, I don't know how well disguised we actually were, but apparently when Nana came to put the room away, she didn't see us. That is, until we jumped out from behind the pile and, gave her a little bit of a surprise, but that ultimately just ended up making her laugh harder. um, and I still hadn't figured it out. I don't think Evan had either. And she told us that it was a prank, and I got smart with her and basically told her, "You got class to clean up, go do it." Something along those lines. I don't remember what I said, but and she took us into town with her, and we went and got ice cream, and so it ends on a happy note. But it was just that was the day that we learned that Saint Linda was not 100% saint; that she had a little bit of prankster in there too. And there were other times she pranked us, but that's the one that really stands out because that's the first time it ever happened to us. Although I'll tell you another story from when my dad was a baby. When my dad's oldest brother was 6, his Nana made his costume for him. And after my uncle got done trick-or-treating, Nana grabbed his jack-o'-lantern and his mask and snuck out the back door up to the front door and rang the doorbell. My uncle answered the door. And she didn't say anything because she knew that if she did, he was going to figure it out. So she just holds up the jack-o'-lantern, points to it, and my uncle gives her candy. And she, nods thank you and walks off. And my uncle yells after her, "Hey, I've got a mask just like that." I don't know how long after that it was before my uncle figured that out. I have a feeling it was pretty quickly, though. Yeah, Nana was a character. But that's it for this story. See you in the next one.